And welcome back. I've actually gotten quite a bit of work done over the last 3 or 4 days. As I said in the last video, I've had the last several days off, and this is my 7-day off period from work, just a part of my normal work rotation, which is nice because it gives me plenty of time to really get into a project like this. This video, you're going to see me working on the flap actuator, installing what you see here is the left side, I believe, and putting these together, threading them through into the fuselage, and then bolting them in place. Watching several other folks work with theirs, especially with the RV10, I was kind of worried about this, but for me, at least on this project on the RV14, it went really easily. I was very surprised. The shapes that you bolt onto the ribs that hold these tubes in place is a plastic, and you shape those, of course, but once you get those in place, everything just kind of slid in, and as you'll see here in a minute, I apply wheel bearing grease to all of the exposed portions, the portions that aren't powder coated, and that's to help obviously while it's in those plastic frames that hold it, and that's what I'm doing here. But also it helps as you're sliding it through to squeeze in through the holes there. So it actually went really easily, a lot better than I thought it was going to. And with that alignment tool, that's the alignment tool from the wing kit, and you want to make sure you don't get rid of that. But that's the tool that you use to align the ailerons. Well, you keep that for this also. So here I'm putting it in place, and then you'll see me bolting it in, and it, like I said, went really easily. Now, as you can see here, I've only got the one floor in place. Where I'm at now, I've got everything in, both floors in. Also, the baggage area sidewalls are put in place and riveted in. And I'm actually in a process of painting, and unfortunately, I haven't videoed much of that just because I've been focused more on trying to get the painting done correctly. But I'm trying a rattle can process instead of going with some expensive painting for the interior. I'm just going to try rattle can and then use a satin clear coat lacquer on top to try to increase its resistance to scratching. We'll see how it goes. It's relatively cheap. If it doesn't work, then I'll figure out something else. Now that I'm getting back into making these videos, I also wanted to touch base. There's a lot of folks who have joined this channel in the last year or two, and for those who have joined, welcome. I'm just kind of a little bit of backdrop on me for those who may not have seen all of the previous videos. I'm putting these videos together mostly for my entertainment, but also to help anyone out there that might be working on the same part that I am or section that I am and just have a question. So I try to include as much as I can outside of the prep work stuff, rounding the edges, things like that. I edit that stuff out because that's mundane and typical stuff. But I try to include most of the processes that aren't mundane. I know there's several times where I've gotten to a part or a step and I just can't quite see or visualize how that step is done. So it's nice to be able to see what someone else has done to kind of, step through that process. So that's kind of the point of these videos. So if you have any questions, if there's something that you are really looking to see how it was done and I didn't capture that or you didn't see that, let me know. Drop me a comment in the section below. Get a hold of me, whatever. And I'll be more than happy to go over that again. In fact, if it's something that's significant enough, I can certainly make a video specifically on whatever that process was. I did that with the fuel tanks, and it helps some people to kind of see it a little more clearly. Now I'm starting to install the flap motor actuator housing. It's also the support for that cross beam there, and altogether, there wasn't none of this was really that difficult or big of a deal. It's just a matter of some of these brackets make it a little difficult, a little tight to get to the rivets. If you don't have curved rivet attachments for 470s, I recommend getting them. They become very useful, especially in building the fuselage portion. there's several areas where just a straight piece just makes it extremely difficult to get a good rivet. I've had to buy a few of them as I've gone along. I inherited quite a bit of my tools from my grandfather-in-law, and I was fortunate in that. But there are a few that I've had to purchase just for one-time use here or there. So now this is the actual motor itself for the flaps. It has you drill this tiny little hole right next to the wing nut, and that's where you're going to put in safety wire that you'll wrap around the through bolt right here where I'm working here. And I'm assuming that's just to ensure that the nut doesn't back off, and so that way the flap motor actuator doesn't shift. I'm not quite sure. Well, anyway, this is going to be a quick video. I'm going to go ahead and drop it off here. But again, those who are new to the channel, welcome. Those who've been watching all along, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time.